leadership. So we go to the next one. The next one we want to talk about is media publication about you. So media publication about you. This criteria is, I need you to understand, when we say media publication, it's different from scholarly articles that you wrote. We are still going to get there. That you are the one that you wrote some articles. This one is, you are not the writer. A media outlet, a journalist has written about your work. And that work has been published somewhere. That is what we call media publication about you. So, what do we need to do? What is expected? The published material. So this criteria requires evidence of articles, features, or other written content about the person. It has to be about you, that has been published in professional or major trade publications or other media outlets. So it is required that it is published in major. So let's assume you have a media and it is not a major outlet or a professional outlet, then it will not qualify. So you need to, it's one thing to have a media publication about you. Then the other aspect of it is that media publication needs to be from a major trade, a professional. It has to be a significant media outlet. So, and it should be related to your field. So, I mean, if it doesn't relate to your field, let's assume the media is not related to your field. The publication, you understand, has to be a professional publication. So I'm going to tell us what we usually require. So, and the focus too should be on the person's work. The claim must specifically relate to the petitioner's work in the field in which your EB1A classification is sourced. So the content should highlight your achievements, your contribution, and impact within the field. The two requirements is the published media about the person's work, professional major trade organization, or media publication. So those are the things you need. Professional or major trade publication. So what this means is that, let's assume you are a journalist and there is a media outlet for your organization. For example, in IEEE, we have IEEE Spectrum. We have IEEE Magazine. They send these magazines out to all members every month. So let's assume you were interviewed by one of the journalists and they publish about your work. Oh, maybe you manufactured something, or you develop a new algorithm, or you use a particular style of writing, a new kind of painting, or anything within your field that you've done. And they publish about your work. So the audience of that media are professionals within your field, then that is a very good one. That is a very good one. Or let's assume a tech media outlet, for example, Science Times, TechCrunch, and those other similar ones. They published about my work within the engineering or tech field. Then those are very good media outlets, because now you can tell USCIS that the audience of these people are not just general audience. These are professionals, engineers, innovators within my field. So, and for me to be interviewed by a journalist and to be spread across this geography of people, then, or demography of people, it shows that I'm someone of extraordinary ability. You always have to hit the nail on the bar. So, there are those similar journals and media outlets for different kind of fields. For a business person, let's assume Business Day, Business Insider, Harvard Business Review, The Economist. They wrote about your work. You understand? These are very good examples. Then that's for business people. Then so we have similar. So these are usually a strong media. But if you don't have this kind of media, let's assume a general media like New York Times, CNN, MSN, they talk about your work. Those are also medias. These are general media that can work. You just need to explain to us what did they talk about you, what is the spread, the reach of this work, which I'm going to get to. So for law, for example, maybe we have the American Bar Association Journal, those kind of things. Business people, Wall Street Journal, they wrote about you. We have entrepreneur.com, and those kind of similar prestigious media outlets. These are very good media outlets that you can use as evidences. about your work. So then the ones that usually will not work is you made a social media post. These ones will not work. Articles unrelated to your feed. So maybe they talk about you, but it's not related to your feed. It will not work. An article that is just barely mentioning your name in passing without talking about your contribution, that the focus is not you. They just mention you in passing and we are unable to see what work you've done. You understand? It will not qualify. Articles with just a quote from you too. Maybe somebody reference your quotes or your words or your something you said somewhere in a particular media. It is not also going to really qualify. So it will not usually work. So how do you present this evidence? Your documentary evidence will include copies of articles and features. So you want to submit these articles. Then you want to give us the publication details. So for each publication, you want to tell us the author. Again, we don't expect the author to be you. You want to include the title, date of publication, the author's name, the title, dates, and those kind of things. Then the circulation is also very important. So you want to tell us, is it online or print? Then you want to tell us what is the volume of circulation, how many people, and what is the reach in terms of the number of people that has access or that read that article. If you have this information, this is going to be a very good information. Then basically you are just trying to say that, oh, I'm a well-known person in this field that people listen to or people read about. That is the purpose of this criteria. Then you want to tell us the intended audience of the publication. Basically, USCIS likes that you don't just use a general audience or audience that really don't know about your field or so those kind of things. So you want to explain the audience that these are business people, professionals in their field or in your field. So that's what you want to explain. So the considerations or the tip I can give for you for this is that there are several ways to approach getting this criteria. So one of the ways is that you need to be a promoter of your own work. So if you are a researcher, for example, and you write article, or you are a journalist, or you are an artist, or you are a writer, you are a poet, you are an attorney, you are a business person, talk about your work on media outlets like LinkedIn, Twitter, or X, Reddit. I mean, if you talk about your work, usually when you talk about your work and you have good work, one time or the other, you get connected with journalists and they can say, oh, they want to interview you. You understand? So it is very possible. So I got like 2 interview invites, for example, just because I talk about my work in robotics. So it doesn't mean that I'm the best person or you are a robotics expert, but usually the little you know, you talk about the little contributions you've done. Once you talk about them, there is a way it attracts other people to you and eventually they can invite you, and you can also pitch your work to journalists. Even for LinkedIn is a very good purpose for them. You can connect with, let's assume you're a scientist, talk about your work if you publish articles, publicize your work, promote your work on yourself. I know researchers don't like to do this, that okay, if they do quality work, that the quality work is going to get known. But again, there's nothing wrong, there's nothing unethical about it. In promoting your work. When you promote your work and you talk about your work, the contributions in your work, connect with science journalists. Then when you connect with science journalists, it means that when you talk about it, they see it. And you are discussing about your work in layman term. You know, it's one thing to make a scientific presentation, for example, but now you're talking about it in a more simpler language. Then they begin to understand that, oh, this is what you did, this is the contribution, this is the impact. They'll be like, oh, I have to interview this person, I have to interview this person's work. And then that's a very cheap way to do it, but it's not something you can just achieve within a month. It's something you need to build based on online presence, and this is one thing you can do. So when you also write for columns or newspaper, you just write. It's not that you are just writing about your work. You write usually at the end of the day, when you write about your work, people will like, oh, this person is an expert, and they can eventually talk about your work. You understand? So when you volunteer for popular podcasts to reach a widespread audience, again, the podcast or the columns that you are writing will not qualify on their own, but it makes you known to eventually get people to talk about you. You understand what I'm trying to say? So again, when they write about you, you want to ensure the focus is on your contributions. If the writing is not in English, you want to include translations of those work. And when compiling evidence, document your name, the circulation statistics, intended audience, highlight the title, date, and author of the material if you can do. Okay, so the common reasons for RFE is that you do not include details of the author, like no detail of the author. So you can get an RFE for it. Article does not discuss petitioner work and contributions to the feed. Then there's an RFE. No evidence to show intended audience of the media. So you need to show intended audience of the media one way or the other by explaining that, okay, these are the audience of the media. Usually some of this information, if you dig down the web, you are going to find it. You just need to know how to use it to tell a story. Then you want to talk about the circulation statistics and the readership of the media. It is also very important. And if the media report focus on wrong subjects, e.g. employer, and not you, even though if that work is what you did, maybe your employer, you launch a new product, and that product, you are the product manager or the software engineer or the technical writer, or you just have a role there. If the article doesn't talk about you, then it will not qualify. So if it talks about the product, then that's it. It's about the product and your employer, and that's all.